Hi, and welcome back to our tutorial series for our Grasshopper Rhino plugin Morpho. Today in session 8, creating and running the simulation. I'm your host Benjamin, and I'm gonna help you with this plugin. Today we are gonna talk about the simulation and the different parameters we need for it. We're also gonna discuss optional settings that you can also input into the simulation. And then finally, we're going to run the simulation from within Rhino. So as a quick recap, last time we discussed the different weather data formats that we use. So again, full forcing and simple forcing. And this is what we're also going to need today for our simulation output. So I already teased a little bit of what we're doing today in the last session. So the main thing here is this module. It's called Morpho main settings. And here we need to set some parameters. So first we need to input the inix model. This is what we created here. So we're just gonna plug it in here. Then we need to name our simulation so we can tell different simulations apart. And for this I'm just gonna call it Morpho Sim 1 maybe. And connect it right here. Then we choose a start date. Now you can choose any date you want. You just have to be sure that the date and the time span is covered in your weather data. So if we're using full forcing like now, we have basically every day in the year we can choose from. But if you have a limited full forcing or limited EPW file, or limited simple forcing data, you may not be able to choose any date. So just make sure that your date is covered by the weather data. But for our simulation, just going to choose a warm summer day. It's maybe 21st August 2024. And make sure to use the right data format. You can also look here. It's going to tell you the format, so it's day, month, and 4-digit year. So this is right, and then also start time. Also make sure to use the right format. And yeah, usually we start the simulation in the morning, so 5 or 6 a.m. And for our simulation, I'm gonna do 5 a.m. And then the next thing is the duration. So how long do we want to simulate? This also is usually 24 hours. I think you can also see it here. Yeah, the default is 24 hours. You can do 48, 72, or also less, like 12 hours. But 24 hours is usually a realistic and sensible period. So just for continuity, I'm going to enter 24 here and connect it to duration. So now for the rest of the parameters, I also discussed last time that here we don't need to change anything. We can just keep the default values, as you can see here. But we have a full and complete weather file, so we don't really need to add anything here. It's really optional. And now we can connect the main settings to this module, which is the Morpho Simix. And now for other settings, we already connect our weather data. This is the most important one. And now we have the option to add many more optional settings, as you can see here in the simulation tab. So all these are optional settings. It really depends on what you are looking at in your simulation. But if you're a first timer and you just want to have a simple simulation with the most important aspects, you don't have to add anything more here. I'm just going to show you the Morpho output settings. This is maybe the most common one you could use. But for the rest, you should only really adjust those if you know what you're doing. So these are more like the expert settings. but you can really control a lot, like time steps or the water content in your soil, radiation, and so on and so forth. But for the output settings, usually in the default settings, the simulation outputs the most important aspects. So the atmosphere data, radiation data, vegetation data, and so on. But here, if you want to, you can choose which files should be written and which should not be written. So this can, if you're only interested in the atmosphere data, like temperature, you can set everything here to false and then only write atmosphere to true, which is the default setting. And then connect these output settings also to the other settings here. Or if you prefer to work with netcdf files, you can also select them here. And then the files will additionally be outputted at netcdf, which can be very convenient for further data processing and visualization. But as I said, for the basic setting, we don't need to do anything more. And yeah, now we can already connect a Boolean toggle here. And if we click here on true, it's gonna it's gonna create the Simix file and put it in our workspace folder. So I'm just gonna quickly show you. So now, as you can see in our project folder, we have created the Simix file. You can also open it in ENVI-met and take a look if everything went correctly. You can see here the date, the time, the duration is all right. Also the name and where we want to put our which Unix file is going to be loaded. And also our full forcing data, we can see it shows the Fox file. So everything went well. And yes, as a quick reminder, for this to work, you also have to have this module, the Unix Morpho model, to toggle to true, because otherwise it will not get the information for the Unix model and it will not be able to create the Simix file. So just make sure if you run this, you also have to run this or have this activated. And now the final last step is to actually run the simulation, so to execute the Simix file. And for this, we go here to run simulation. Here we just need to input the Simix file, and then with another Boolean toggle, as you will see right here, if you set this to true, it's gonna automatically run the simulation, and yeah, now this is gonna run in the background, and you can just leave your PC running, and yeah, then it will also automatically create the output folder here in your project folder. And here's where all the output data will be generated. So here in the different folders, the atmosphere data, radiation, surface data, and so on. Yeah, and just so you know, the simulation time can be quite long. So for a simple model, it should just be a few hours. But if you have a more complex model, or really depending on the size and resolution of your model, it can take several days or even weeks. So yeah, just make sure that you keep the simulation running. You can, in this command window, you can see any updates or error messages that could pop up. And just as a last note, if you want to stop the simulation, so now it's still running, you have to open the task manager, and then here with the right click you can enter task, and then it will stop the simulation. Yeah. But for now, I'm just going to restart it, and then in the next session, we will work with our results. So again, I'm going to summarize what we learned today. So we saw what kind of parameters we need for the simulation, what kind of information we need to put in, and how we connect different settings, so additional optional settings. And then I also showed you how to run and also how to quit the simulation again after it's running. So as I said, we're going to see us again for the next session when we're going to visualize our results. Until then, goodbye.